Okay, folks, this video I would actually just like to talk a little bit about everything that I have been studying up until right now. And it's a lot of stuff, but I think if I can sum it up, I can make it make sense, and I might be able to make it interesting. So, what I study in sociology is the relationship between technology and the given society. In particular, the relationship between modern society, and I use modern society very generally here, but what I'm really talking about is a global society, the modern global civilization, and how technology influences the way we organize we organize ourselves. In in sociology, we learn a lot of how structures of a society often influence the way the society runs and organizes itself and thinks, the way people behave, and the way people can behave is often contingent upon economics, institutions, and then also technology. Very importantly, technology. And technology can mean many different things. Technology can mean literally the invention of some kind of tool that makes life easier, or the invention of an abstract system that makes life easier. For instance, some kind of legal system that revolutionizes the way people think and makes trade easier or makes government easier, things like that. So these are all inventions, technological inventions, whether they're more conceptual or more physical, like cell phones, for instance. A cell phone is very important. Is a very important tool if you're analyzing, let's say, modern society, because it lets us talk to each other, lets instant communication occur, and these things were never really before possible. I mean, were never possible before modern times, and because of this new technology, we are now interacting in ways that never happened before, in degrees of intensity that never existed before. So, once again, technology is very important as an influence for a given society. And by society, I know to some degree, and let me just give you a little bit of background about sociology. Um, we speak of societies usually more relatively. Uh, when I was talking to my thesis advisor about uh, societies, and I was writing, oh, society influenced by technology. She was like, "What do you mean by society? Which society?" And I was thinking, like, I don't know, society. And she's like, "Oh, you should probably narrow that down a little bit more. And you should specify specific. What do you mean by society?" So I think I would like to specify, because it's very useful to lay down terms, especially when you're trying to present a theory or some more kind of concrete description, um, or anything more scientific, or even just in conversation. It's good to let people know what you mean. So society, group of people, and in particular, modern civilization is very different than previous civilizations in that it's not an isolated group. It's not you know, this culture and this culture living on opposite continents, and they only come in contact once in a while. For the most part, they can be studied on their own. We're coming to a very critical point, and I believe this is, again, not necessarily my idea, obviously, it's almost a common observation. The world is shrinking, as they say. We're coming to a point where interdependence and interconnection amongst many civilizations that have arisen are sort of converging. So, to speak of this in sociological terms, we often call that globalization, modernization, industrialization. These are all very technical and well-known terms within our field to try to describe what's going on, why we're all becoming interconnected and interdependent. So that's basically the gist of that's basically the background. Structures, societies, and how structures influence societies, how they change the way we organize. And if I'm making sense so far, thanks, and if this is boring, it's about to get a little bit more interesting, I hope. So, basically, people organize themselves often differently depending on how many people they have in a group. If there are 5 people, they organize themselves differently than 10, 12, 20, 200, 2,000. The more people you have, the more organization you're going to need in order to get tasks done, to distribute food, to survive as a coherent group. So if the group becomes larger, the group often needs more organization and different types of organization depending on the scale of the group. So we can go at the micro level and say, here are 6 people, or we can go to the macro level and say, oh, here's 60,000 people. How do they get along? How do they distribute authority? How do they distribute commands? So throughout history, interestingly enough, and pretty much throughout all societies and civilizations, we have kept a very top-down command line, a very authoritative, hierarchical command line, because it has in the past been one of the most effective methods. Now, this isn't just a matter of size. There's also reasons why, it goes from 60 people to 60,000 people to 6 million to 6 billion. There are many other reasons why, and that process can't just be studied as, oh, well, it just happened. We obviously, social scientists don't think that, but to understand the processes that society has undergone, the changes and transformations, we've developed a subfield of sociology called Sociocultural Evolution. How did all this come about? Where are we going? Why are we going there? And what are the mechanics and processes behind these changes? Okay, so this is where I tie in sociocultural evolution, which is one thing that I'm studying, and my own major focus, which is the relationship in modern society, modern civilization, between technology and culture, and how we organize society. And here's the punchline. I believe that our civilization, the global village, is a global village for a number of technological reasons and inventions and ideas that are radically transforming the way we organize, the way we operate, and how authority is handled. So in other words, I think that we are actually going through a major socio-evolutionary transformation today. I mean, not literally just today. I mean, what just happened? I mean, like, in general, these few years that we're living in, this digital information age, is a sign of the times. It's a sign that we have reached a critical point in adaptation with the environment. We've reached a critical point in the way we structure and organize society and the way we can, through things like the internet, so that common structures that we once needed in order to run society, things very top-down, bureaucracy, kings, hierarchies, things like that, very centralized agents and authorities, are beginning to lose their significance and their to make an analogy to biological evolution, these traits are no longer successful. The environment has changed, but it's not necessarily the exterior environment as much as human society has changed itself so much that the very structures that it depended on to organize itself no longer work. It's become too big. It's become too big, and there's too many differences now in technology and the way people interact. And I believe that we're becoming more decentralized. In other words, society is becoming more complex. And these complexities allow an interdependent, interconnected global village to have an equally interdependent, interconnected system of organization. And this to be manifested is something like the internet. It's the way we communicate here. It's the way we can broadcast through these words, through these types of communications. So what I'm really saying is that the internet is becoming society. It's society, the internet. Structure influences society. And I'll continue in the next part. I hope this is interesting.